Well, today's video is about the history of a GI Joe character named Quinn. Let me share a bit of my own origin story with you for a moment. My introduction to GI Joe was through Sunbow's animated series, which is the case for most of the franchises that I enjoy still to this day. However, on the comic book side, I can still remember the first few comic books that I ever had, the special few that started me off in the world of collectibles. One of those was GI Joe issue 2. In fact, it was the Tales of GI Joe 2 issue, which reprinted the second issue of ARAH. In that issue was the debut of none other than Quinn, so let's talk about him. But before we do, thanks for watching JLS Comics. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. I do upload videos just like this every week. Let's jump back to our story. Jesse Quinn is named after a song that Bob Dylan wrote in 1967 called Quinn the Eskimo, which Manfred Mann sang in 1968. He's also inspired by a movie called The Savage Innocents starring Anthony Quinn. G.I. Joe's Quinn was born into the Inuit Indian tribe on the coast of Alaska, on the shores of the Chukchi Sea, north of the Bering Strait, just 219 miles from the birthplace of another G.I. Joe named Frostbite. Growing up surrounded by tundra and frigid barren Alaskan wilderness, Quinn quickly developed tracking, survival, huntsman, and hunting skills that he parlayed into contractor and freelance special ops work from intelligence outfits around the world like Mossad, KGB, CIA, MI6. As his file card says, Quinn is, quote, an expert tracker, hunter, and woodsman who can speak 8 languages, including 3 Inuit dialects. Although unerringly accurate with pistol, long-range rifle, and harpoon, his weapon of choice is the belt-fed, air-cooled 30 cal machine gun, unquote. As Quinn says about himself, his old Eskimo Quinn is dead accurate with his 30 cal air-cooled Browning. Dead accurate, mind you, with a hip-fired M1919 is quite impressive. It's a weapon that's supposed to be fired from a tripod or a mount, but Quinn is 6 feet 10 inches tall and 260 pounds, so he can handle it. Quinn is also incredibly loyal, and though we'll see him take work from Cobra, has a strict moral code and a code of honor. A man of deep convictions, Quinn holds strict to a code of honor that makes his word a sacred bond. He never lies and never goes back on a deal. It's through this that he developed a bond with Snake Eyes, and which also led to his downfall at the hands of Dr. Venom. His sense of honor would crash head-on into his sense of duty ever since his first run-in with the Joe team. Quinn ended up running into the G.I. Joe team in Larry Hama and Marvel Comics ARAH issue 2 with a story called The Panic at the North Pole. Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Stalker, and Breaker were pulled off of their leave for a mission to the Arctic. An American research outpost in the Arctic at the North Polar Ice Cap was hit in a commando-style raid, and all of the staff were murdered. All records were stolen, and it was thought to be the Russians who happened to have their own station a few miles away. It was, in fact, the Russians, but they were under the influence of a Soviet fear wave experiment. Quinn was hired to clean up any evidence of Russian involvement in the murders, and so Quinn was hired to clean up any evidence of that Russian involvement in the murders. So the Joe team was flown in with General Flagg himself on a recon mission to figure out what happened as their primary objective. Their secondary mission was to retrieve the records missing from that research station. The fire team dropped into the snow and set up a blind on a hill above the Russian Quonset huts. After 6 hours of observation, patience, and photography, an Eskimo skied up to one of the Russian Quonset huts with a dog sled. But this was no ordinary Eskimo. This one had a thick red fur-lined parka, green goggles, a weasel skull necklace, and 2 full shoulder-worn belts for his 30 cal, which was strapped on his back. This was no ordinary Inuit at all. No, this was Quinn. Quinn walked into the hut, but quickly exited and skied off with his sled and dog pack, and after he disappeared into the snowdrifts, the 4 Joes breached and found a hut full of dead frozen Russian scientists and the equipment for a long-range, ultra-low-frequency beam transmission device, which had the frequency modulator, a key part of the equipment, missing, as well as a safe, which is supposed to be full of documents, that was also cleaned out and empty. They quickly deduced that Quinn had taken these things, though they knew not who he was at the time. Snake Eyes kicked over a table and found out that Quinn had left TNT to detonate. They got out just as the hut exploded. The Joes figured out that he was probably hired by the Russians to take the modulator and the documents, and he'd most likely be meeting them in their submarine at the coast. Breaker sent his photos back to General Flagg to figure out who this mysterious person was, and after a few miles of hiking and a few hours of time, they got a dossier on this mercenary, and they now knew it was Quinn. As night drew down on the team and the darkness closed in around them, they finally caught up with Quinn, who'd made a camp and a campfire in the ruins of a plane, the same plane that had actually brought him to this remote area, but it ended up crashing. Snake Eyes snuck in on Quinn, who was sitting by the campfire all bundled up trying to get warm. But when Snake Eyes pulled back on the blanket, Snake Eyes was not met with Quinn. He was met with a pile of C4, and that's when Quinn kicked out the door on the plane and confronted them, a remote detonator for the C4 in his hand. He forced them to throw the weapons in the rucks in the dog sled as he crushed the radio with his foot. And so, now doomed, Quinn told the Joes of his mission and that he was to meet the crew of the plane and the Russians at the submarine the next day. Quinn was drawn to Snake Eyes and said the Shadow Man has the eyes of a shaman. He sees the spirit of snow and ice gazing at his soul like a hungry bear. The Joes scavenged the plane wreckage and constructed a windsail ice boat, and yes, they took the C4 with them. The high winds gave them enough speed to get ahead of Quinn, and so Snake Eyes set up a trap with the C4 on an ice bridge that he was sure to pass through. But Quinn outsmarted them. His sled was buried, but he was not, and as he gloated, Scarlet landed 2 boots to Quinn's head. "Hey Fatso, chew on this," she yelled at him. Snake Eyes grabbed a hidden ammo clip and dove for his Uzi. "Shadow Man has the speed of a weasel," Quinn said, as he again revealed he'd outsmarted them by taking the firing pins from their weapons and stringing them on his famed necklace. He said it was a charm against death by gunfire. Quinn then told them that they'd soon be devoured by the spirits of the snow and ice, which was sad because they were all brave fighters. He also told them that he regretted taking the mission, which was tampering with fear, and fear was the greatest killer of all. He wanted to give the GI Joes the modulator from the Fear Wave machine, but Quinn couldn't because he was bound by his word on the contract he had taken. There had to be another way, he said. Quinn then met with the Russians at the coast and fulfilled his contract, and he wanted to leave, he said, before the Joes got there because he abhorred senseless violence. Quinn had fulfilled his contract, so his word was met. He told the Russians that he left the Joes 5 miles away with no firing pins for their weapons, but that he left his necklace with the pins in a cairn just a mile away as an offering to the spirits, that fear might vanish from the world. And the issue closes with the Joe team headed toward the Russians with their weapons hot, Quinn's necklace adorning the neck of Snake Eyes. Quinn comes back again 10 issues later for issue 12. Scarlet and the Joes were chasing a Cobra van in San Francisco when it crashed. Scarlet found the remnants of packing crates in the wreckage with a destination label for Najahana Trading Corp. that said Plaza de la Serpiente, Rio Lindo, Republic of Sierra Gordo, and it was to the attention of one K. Wynn, Quinn. So Flag and Hawk tasked Breaker, Stalker, Snake Eyes, and Gung Ho with heading down to Sierra Gordo to investigate. Najahana, he also says, means Cobra in Hindi. In Serpent Plaza, the team knocked on the door to Najahana and were met with the craggy face of Dr. Venom. After a firefight between the Joes and Cobra, the Joes wound up Venom, Scarface, and some Cobra troopers, and that's when they ran into Quinn again. Quinn had burst through the door like he'd seen in an old western and fired his Browning, shooting the gun right out of Gung Ho's hand and the cover right off of his head. His hip-firing accuracy was on full display here. He then had a reunion with Snake Eyes in a John Woo-style gun versus gun standoff. Quinn had the Joes roped up and had Quinn take them to a riverboat, although Venom kept Snake Eyes back to torture him for making a fool of him in Springfield. When Venom was mercilessly beating up the bound Snake Eyes, it was Quinn who grabbed Venom's wrist and told him to stop. "I promised that no one would die," Venom reminded him of his contract, and so Quinn told him that he would deal with him personally at the close of their contract. As they headed upriver, Quinn told Venom, "My contract requires me to ensure the safe delivery of the computer chips, and when they're loaded on the plane and safely in the air, his contract with Cobra would end." So Cobra had this small bunker upriver where they met with the Baroness, and inside the bunker it's revealed that a virus and a serum to activate it were in their possession. Just as Quinn detected Snake Eyes outside the compound, and as he kicked open the front metal door, discovered that Snake Eyes freed the other Joes and stole the boat and headed out on the river. Quinn and Venom stayed at the bunker while Baroness and Scarface chased the boat in a seaplane. From the bunker, Quinn watched Baroness drop a bomb on the boat while Venom snuck up behind Quinn with a loaded weapon. But Snake Eyes was not on the boat. He tackled the evil doctor as Venom cried out for help, but Quinn said that Baroness was safely in the air and his contract was fulfilled. On the plane, Baroness said that Venom and Quinn were expendable, and she circled back to drop a bomb on the bunker. And as Quinn saw this, Quinn shoved Snake Eyes back into the bunker to save him, just as Baroness' bomb exploded, and it looked like he was dead. But soon we learned that he was alive, in fact, and that the bunker itself had sunk 50 feet into the river, and he was trapped with both Snake Eyes and Dr. Venom. To escape, they'd need to flood the room as there was hundreds of pounds of pressure on the front door. As Quinn swam down to open the door, he called out to the spirits of the otter, the bear, and the weasel for help diving, for strength, and for wits to outmatch Dr. Venom. But as he held the door open, Snake Eyes swam out and up, and so did Venom, but as Venom exited, he smacked Quinn in the head with a wrench, knocked him out trying to kill him. On the surface, Venom convinced Snake Eyes that Quinn was now dead, but he said he bumped his head. Later, Quinn emerged from the murky depths of the water to free Venom and Snake Eyes from Cobra. Snake Eyes was about to drown Venom, but Quinn told him that Venom would be the one to fly them out of Sierra Gordo, so they needed him alive. So the three of them snuck onto an airfield and stole a World War II-era British Lancaster bomber. Quinn took the engineer's seat. He said he was only single-engine qualified, but he knew enough to monitor fuel and oil levels. The soldiers on the airfield tried to make a barrier on the runway, but Venom got the old bomber in the air, although they lost their landing gear as it hit a line of technicals on takeoff. In the air, Venom dropped Snake Eyes out the bomb doors, and then Quinn, who helped Snake Eyes just as the rope he was clinging to snapped. They climbed back in, and Quinn was about to throw Venom out with no parachute, but Snake Eyes stopped him. "You're right," Quinn said. "The man who whips the dog will pull his own sled one day." They barely made it, and the Lancaster crashed onto Miami Beach in Florida. Snake Eyes and Quinn were taken into custody by Miami PD, while Venom was released by a Cobra legal trooper. It turns out that Quinn had a saw blade hidden in his boot, and he used it to break him and Snake Eyes out of jail. They got a pink Cadillac and headed to Coney Island on the hunt for Scarface, who could tell them the location of the treacherous Dr. Venom. They found Scarface at Coney Island, and instead of killing him, Quinn tossed him the keys to the pink Cadillac after he told them where to find Dr. Venom. "Take it and get out of here," Quinn said. Quinn and Snake Eyes ended up finding Dr. Venom in Brooklyn, but as Quinn was about to beat him to death, a Cobra assault force helicoptered in. Snake Eyes put on the snake armor to fight, but Venom controlled the armor and forced it to grab Quinn's Luger and then throw Quinn into a desk where he lay face down on the floor, unmoving as Destro, Cobra Commander, and a squadron of troopers barged in. Instead of finishing him off, they put Quinn in the second snake armor and then used both of them in the assault on the GI Joe's base. Then Venom forced Snake Quinn to fire on Snake Eyes to try to kill him, but Snake Eyes fired back, which freed Quinn from the snake armor, and he went after Venom. He was about to kill Venom with a grenade, the bitterest pill to swallow, he said, but then told him he gave him his life back to squander away as he wanted. And as Quinn walked away, Venom took out his pistol and shot Quinn in the shoulder, trying to provoke him. But Quinn said, "There's no anger left in me. I've made my peace with the weasel." And I don't think he means Pauly Shore. That's when Quinn collapsed to the ground, dead, and the grenade rolled out of his hand and to the feet of Dr. Venom, and boom, he was dead too. And so the tale of the Inuit mercenary Quinn drew to a close, or did it? Though he died, Quinn's impact would continue to reverberate into the future, as a story you'll see is far from over. At some point during the early years, Quinn had a son named Jesse Quinn Jr., codenamed Ghost Bear, that was seen in the non-canon stories by Devil's Due. Quinn, also an Inuit, was born on the Russian side of the Bering Strait in Siberia. In a letters page for issue 20, Larry, or maybe it was Denny O'Neil, said there would be no Dr. Venom and no Quinn action figures. And this remained true until 2004. In issue 21, which is the famous silent interlude silent issue, Destro was playing chess, and one of the chess pieces was Quinn, shorts and all. One of the few characters, actually, who wore shorts. In issue 22, Wild Bill had Quinn's dead body strapped to the skids on his dragonfly as he touched down at Fort Wadsworth, where he was met by Snake Eyes. Airborne said that Snake Eyes wanted to give his Eskimo friend a send-off to make sure that the bear spirit could find its way through the sea and wind to merge with the Great Spirit until the death of time. They flew him to the lighthouse at Montauk Point on Long Island, and Snake Eyes laid Quinn's body in a kayak and placed his weapon on his chest and the weapon of Dr. Venom, his defeated enemy, at his feet. "Goodbye, Quinn," they said as he drifted off into eternity, merging with the afterlife where the sea meets the sky at the horizon. His story was very much about honor and the power of word, about tradition, about vengeance, and ultimately about finding peace and redemption, which is a common theme in G.I. Joe. In issue 26, Destro ended up quoting Quinn with his famous "the man who whips the dog" line. In issues 67 and 68, Cobra started selling off Terrordromes, such as they did with Frozen Land, that had Fearwave tech installed, the same Fearwave tech from way back in issue 2. In 2011, Quinn made an appearance from beyond the grave. In issue 165, Dr. Venom was back in Billy's body, so the Joes went to his mind with the brainwave scanner, and there a ghostly Quinn rode up with a kayak and dragged Dr. Venom back into the afterlife, which separated him from Billy's mind. And even a few issues later, Quinn and Venom were still tangling. This was happening even as late as issue 258, where Robo-Venom was still possessing bodies, and he was still being tortured by Quinn and reliving the time when Quinn killed him with a grenade. As there was no action figure for decades, there was also no animation for Quinn. He's unique to the comic books. And it wouldn't be until 2004, for the Valor vs. Venom line, that a Quinn action figure would finally be released. And here he was carded with Snake Eyes and Scarlet as a 3-pack along with a comic book, which was a reprint of his first appearance. And here he was given a 50 cal mod deuce like Roadblocks instead of the 30 cal that he's known for. Then Quinn got a second figure in 2013 for the GI Joe Retaliation line. He came with a lot of weapons and equipment, including his trademark machine gun, a handgun, a shotgun, a scoped rifle, a bear trap, and a traditional Inuit knife called a ulu. And ulus are made with caribou antlers and slate since they couldn't smelt in the Arctic, although new ones are typically made with steel blades. It's a neat looking tool / weapon. And Quinn is nicely summarized in a quote you can find on his file card. Break your word and you are a traitor not only to others, but also to yourself. And with that, that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this each and every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.